morning. Good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Random Crafty Acts. Welcome back. My name is Barb. This is a first in what I'm hoping is going to be a series. It's something I've been wanting to do. One of the biggest questions that I hear come up from beginning card makers is, how do you decide how you want to set up your card? And while there's all kinds of answers for that, one of the things that we say to a lot of beginning card makers is look over on Pinterest. That's where you're going to find card sketches, and card sketches make it easier for you to figure out how you're going to arrange things on a card. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way. I've been working on this project for a couple of days. Over on Pinterest, there is one of the card sketch groups you will see is Freshly Made Sketches. And you'll notice that there's freshlymadesketches.blogspot.com. And when you go there, you'll find that they put a new card sketch out every Wednesday. And then it's like, I don't know what kind of a challenge it is, or I couldn't figure out if there was a contest. I wasn't really looking looking at it for that reason. But you take that sketch and you make it, and then you post there's someplace you post your card. And no, I don't know where that is. You'll have to double check on their blog. But then on Tuesday they declare kind of like the top ones, and then on Wednesday they put out a new one. It also means that right now on their site there is probably 700, I think, card sketches. Now, there are so many card sketches out on Pinterest, and in a previous video, I went through some of the different places that do these sketches and talked about some of the differences. One of the differences with Freshly Made Sketches is they do not include the sizes of the pieces. So the most current one out there, I'm filming this August 22nd, I think. The most current one out there is number 700. So I grabbed 698 because it's squares, and I figured I could work with that. And I was going to walk through how I came up with the idea of the way I was going to set up the card. Okay, so I'm just going to work through this. This is real simple. Okay, so this piece right here is 4 inches. I'm darkening that to make it a little easier for you to see. This piece right here is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. When I measured these, they were the same size this way. So this one is 1.5 inches, and this one I set at 2.5 inches. Okay? This piece is also 1.5 inches this way, and I set this one at 2.25. And then this piece, all right, is 1/4 inch this way and 2.5 inches this way. All right, now those are my numbers. The numbers are not on the sketch. That's the way I decided I was going to set this up. All right, I then took a look at if I have those pieces, and I think, yeah, this one I've got them cut out. I don't have them cut out yet. We're going to cut those. Okay, so once I have these cut out, then I did some math, which I know I've said I don't do math. But anyway, I came up with the idea that I would use a 3.25 square, 3.25 inches square, and then I would put these pieces on here. So in the long run, what I'm doing is making the focal point. Okay. one of my first ideas was that I would then use a 3 3/4 by 5 as a background and then put that on a bigger piece and then put that on a card front. Okay? And that's not where I ended up. And there were a couple of reasons for that. I'm going to show you my finished. Okay. Once I started trying to center this lengthwise, 5 just wasn't working. So if you have the 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, and then if you bring this down so that this is 375 by 5, there was just a lot of extra space. At least that's the way I felt when I started looking at it. So I built this as a focal point. Okay, I have a die that I cut these out of. I'm working with scraps. I did a lot of inking on the sides to kind of set them out. I did these on my silhouette. I do a set of Happy Fall cards, but I'm not necessarily doing this series as holiday cards or anything specific, so we'll probably be all over the place with this. And then this piece in the back is that 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 that I often do. Okay? So these really came out pretty much the same, depending on which piece of pattern paper I used. Okay? All right. So let's make one. All right, I'm going to set this over here to the side so I remember my numbers. And I think we'll make this one first. Okay, we've got our Happy Fall that's going to go down here. Check to make sure yep, that's working. Okay, this little piece here ended up being 2 inches by 1.5 inches. This is the 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches that'll go there. This is 1.5 inches, and this is quite long. So we're going to cut this at the long piece at 2.5, and then 1.5 inches. Okay, we're going to put it over here. This is not quite right, but I've got a big piece of this, so let's cut this at 1.5 inches. Let's say 2 1/4. And the 1.5 inches. So being able to cut everything at 1.5 inches makes this a little bit easier. And I've got a whole bunch of little pieces like this. Okay, and this is 1/4 inch, and I'm pretty sure I already cut that at 2.5. All right. And I've got a leaf. Set my cutter out of the side, off to the side. All right, next thing I'm going to do is ink. Okay, I'm using Rusty Hinge by Distress, Ranger Distress Oxide. It's got kind of an orangey thing, which goes well if you end up with it on your fingers. When I ink like this, I always start off the edge and work inward to avoid getting those that dome image. And I'm basically, if I had cardstock this color, I would have used it, but I don't. So, and this has a lot of stuff on it, so it's not that important. When I'm doing this, I try to make sure the edges around the edge are a little darker than the middle. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the leaf at this point. For the first edging. All right. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to edge all of this. I'm using sepia. The other color I often use when I do this is Vintage Photo, which is also a Ranger color. And this just happens to be archival ink. And then I'm going to go around the edges of the leaf just to make it stand out a little bit. Give it some variety. Okay. Same thing with these pieces. One of the people you will see using freshly made sketches is Christy Marcotte. I highly recommend Christy. She has some great videos out there on using a whole variety of card sketches, which will be in the other video that I haven't made yet. The list of those, and I'll show you some examples. But the other odd thing is, if you're having trouble figuring out how to make, like what size to make the pieces, someone like Christy Marcotte is a great person to watch her videos, because, and to look over on her, she has a blog that's also connected to what she does, and she shows a picture of a finished card and then the card sketch that she used, and you can either screenshot it, or I basically, is that everything? That's everything. Okay. I basically, I have a way of copying it out of there. Oh, I did miss a piece. You would have thought you could have mentioned that, you know. You could have said, Barbara, you missed that other little odd piece that looks like wood grain. Now, I made this with these fallish colors. You could, this card sketch would make great with really bright colors, like birthday type of colors. You know, it's pretty flexible. Okay, now let's start gluing down. A couple of things about gluing. I use liquid glue because it gives me some wiggle room, but everybody has to come to terms with what they want to do. All right, so I tried to leave myself, I'm calling that 1/8 of an inch around the edge, okay? Then the next piece I put in was the little square, which I didn't ink it either, so we'll ink it now. And these are scraps. These are from out of my scrap bucket from other projects. Okay, and then the next piece I put on is this little one. And I line it up. I am more concerned about this edge matching and this edge matching than I am how close it is here. Now, when I look at this, they've got this set up so that these edges match, and so that you can see the bottom edge here, but this matches over here. So the first time I made one of these, it's like, how far down did I have to go to get this, because they didn't do what I'm doing. They just put that in the center of a card. Also, they put the sentiment on this strip, which you could do depending on how you line it up. But then I'm going to line this there, okay? Then I'm going to put the leaf in the middle up here. Okay. And this piece is the 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And let me set this out of the way. I'm going to show off my new tool that I bought. This is a centering ruler, okay? So that you can like get your edges to match. See how these match? Right, okay. So since I'm going to try to center this, I'm going to flip the ruler so that I could line that up so that that's I don't even know what that is that's there. But it's whatever is between, I guess that's a 16th. Okay. And then this, to center it, you can see and in all honesty, I could eyeball this and probably do just fine, but you know, it's a new toy. Okay, so I can line those there. All right, and then this. I want it so that it's centered under here. Okay, I'm going to get a card front. I'm going to lay this here in case you want to do a screenshot. I know that the measurements are a little light there, but I'll try to include those in the description below. So my idea is that for a while, I will run along with freshly made sketches and like pull it on Wednesday. And we'll do a couple of cards. You can see if you'd like to try them. Okay. All right. So okay, all of the pieces are 1.5 inches this way. This one is a square, 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. This one is 1.5 inches by 2.5 inches. This one is 1.5 inches by 2 1/4. And this strip is 1/4 by 2.5. Okay, I centered all of that on a 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 square, and then made a piece to go across the bottom with my sentiment on it. This is a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. All right. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate it if you would do so. Also, if you're a beginning card maker, after you subscribe, or as a part of trying to decide if you want to subscribe, you can click on the name of the channel and see my playlists. And I've got some playlists on very basic card making where I go through and show like how to cut paper and do all of the different things, and how to use dies, and how to use pattern paper, and how to use digital paper, and all the things that that we do as we learn. And you might find that helpful. Okay, and check back with me. Hopefully there'll be another one of these up this week, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.